Hiawatha told the Oneida chief that he had lost everything because of Tadadaho's attack on his village. I think the Oneida chief felt like maybe he could relate because his people had been through so much, and I think he listened more closely to what they had to say. I can relate because I lost my uncle about a month ago. I met him only once. I was crying and my dad told me, and I was very upset. When I shared what I have gone through with my friend, I felt better. I think Hiawatha also felt better after sharing his experience. My parents shared with me that they had lost families when they were young as well. They knew it was hard and that it hurt a lot, but it also made me feel like I wasn't alone. I think when the Oneida chief knew his people weren't alone, he wanted to join with Hiawatha, the Peacemaker, the Cayuga, and the Seneca.
Born of Mohawk and Cayuga descent, Robbie Robertson learned the story of Hiawatha and his spiritual guide, the Peacemaker, as part of the Haudenosaunee people of the Longhouse oral tradition. The story shows how diverse people become stronger and achieve peace and joy through the power of understanding and forgiveness. We believe in this message and apply it in our classroom, our lives, and here at Stilecroft Public School. We have related the struggles and discoveries of many of these characters to our own lives. Every day we find a new situation that reminds us of Hiawatha healing Tadadaho, the Mohawk war chief, or Tadadaho when he was sick and upset.
Many images in the display produced with grateful appreciation and student collaboration with Raven Crow in her fantastic book, Hollow Bone Art. The gifts that come from my strokes. In January 2010, Raven suffered a major stroke following a surgery and subsequently suffered multiple strokes while recovering at a hospital. This experience resulted in numerous challenges such as seizures, difficulty with walking, and impaired communication, also known as aphasia. She was left with severe cognitive impairments, including challenges with memory, thinking, planning, organizing, and decision-making. While Raven was in the hospital, she knew she had to keep her brain stimulated to aid her recovery and started to draw and paint from her native Métis culture's spiritual healings. Raven sees her strokes as gifts. Wow, now what new gifts are coming my way? Before her strokes, she worked as a spiritual healer as Hollow Bone for spiritual ceremonies, drumming, dancing, singing, of which she stopped due to her strokes. She has returned gradually to continue her role as Aboriginal spiritual leader in her community, open to all that want to take their personal healing to a deeper level. Raven goes to various resource groups within the community such as BIST, COTA, and programs at different Native centers, especially art programs, which she has taken to a much deeper level. As she draws and paints, not knowing what the spirits has in mind for her, her art takes a form of its own, and sometimes it's much later that she knows what the painting is about and names it.
In Piece by Piece, they explained methods about resolving conflicts and didn't believe that they would work at first. When I heard them tell their stories and how they had used those tools, it got through to me. It was a lot like when the Oneida chief thought the Great Law wouldn't work until Hiawatha told him of his loss. When you hear someone offering new advice that has been through something really hard, you tend to think they might know what they are talking about. One of the volunteers told us about how she got into a fight with one of her friends. They wouldn't talk to each other for a while. She used forgiveness and reaching out to her friend with an I statement. to help her understand where she was coming from. She said it worked. Like the Oneida chief, I didn't believe it at first, but if it worked for her, I thought maybe could work for me.
Tadadaho launched an attack at the beginning of the story that killed Hiawatha's whole family. Hiawatha was very angry and couldn't think of anything else for a long time. It kept him from ever being happy and made him think about doing horrible things. One time my sister hurt me when we were fighting and I was mad for a week. I had trouble sleeping and I couldn't stop thinking about it like it was happening over and over. I realized that later that holding onto it was hurting me even worse on the inside. If I was going to move on, I need to forgive my sister. So I did. After I did, I was able to go to sleep again and smile at things I enjoy. We fought again later, but that was because we didn't agree to live in peace like the nation in the story. I think trying to understand that good people can do hurtful things make it easier to forgive people. Forgiving people let us move on and accomplish better things.
In Hiawatha in the Peacemaker, Tadadaho commands his army to destroy Hiawatha's village, which ended in the death of Hiawatha's family. Hiawatha was very angry for a long time. It made it hard to think about anything else. It burns it inside. I was at a different school once and some kids were punching and bullying me. I was very angry. I was mad at all the time. I talked with the principal and we all talked it out. When it was done, they apologized and I really felt like they meant it and were sorry for what they had done. I forgave them. It was hard, but it felt better to let it go. The kids never gave me trouble again. The Tao became the protector of the people he once terrified. He never bullied them again, and I think like the kids were bullied me, he was sorry for the bad things that he did. Understanding other people is really.
Hiawatha had a lot of pain and hatred after what happened to him in the book. He blamed it Tadadaho, but he also blamed it himself for not keeping his family safe. When he shared it what he went through with someone, the Oneida chief who had been through something horrible as well, he realized that it was terrible, but he wasn't to blame for what happened. I felt sad when I broke my mom's favorite pot. It was from my grandma and very special to her. I was trying to get it and it dropped it. My mom was sad and I blamed it myself a lot. I talked about it with my mom later and she helped me understand that it was just a bad thing that happened and that it was an accident, that I didn't need to blame myself for it. I'll be careful next time. But accidents are part of how we learn that if all you think is I did something wrong, it is my fault, you're just sad and feeling bad. You can't see what needs to change. I think it helped the Hiawatha to talk about it with someone like I did with my mom.
In the story, Hiawatha was very upset at the loss of his family to the army of Tadadaho. He blamed Tadadaho, but he also blamed himself for not being able to protect them. Tadadaho, but he also blamed himself for not being able to protect them. I was playing soccer with my friends, and the other team scored a goal. I wasn't able to stop them. I felt really upset with myself, and it made it hard to enjoy the rest of the game with my mind not on the game. I probably played worse. Like Hiawatha, I needed to move on in order to improve. Hiawatha wanted to help create a world where nobody else would have to go through what his family went through. I went to get better at soccer and help my team win. We both needed to forgive ourselves for what came before so that we could keep looking ahead. I eventually got better and helped my team win. After I forgave myself, Hiawatha was able to help unite the five tribes and bring peace to his people.
In the story, Tadadaho killed Hiawatha's family and all Hiawatha wanted was revenge. Sometimes when you're upset, all you can think about, all you care about is doing something back to someone so that you feel better. Once I was upset with my cousin. My cousin told some of my friends that I did something that I hadn't done. I was really mad. I was at home trying to calm down, but I couldn't. I was shaking. I kept thinking of what I could do to get her back. Hiawatha had to do something to get past that feeling. He had to forgive both himself for letting it happen and Tadadaho himself. Once he did, he felt good again. He could once think of nice memories with his family. In the end, I didn't get my cousin back either. I just talked to her. I found out that she acted that way because I accidentally broken something of hers. I didn't even realize. Just like Hiawatha didn't realize how sick Tadadaho was, that's empathy, just like we learned about in Piece by Piece.
In the story, the Peacemaker had trouble speaking because he had a stutter. He had important things to say. The Peacemaker said to Hiawatha, "You have a strong voice. Can you speak for me?" I have felt like the Peacemaker. When I first came here in grade 3, everyone spoke English except me. It made it hard to have friends, and I had important things to say, but I couldn't. It was terrible. Miss Amenta had 2 close friends helped me speak. They often helped me when I had trouble finding the right words. I think Hiawatha made the Peacemaker feel good. It is good when people understand you and it helps you make friends. Now I have a lot of friends because of people like Hiawatha.
Okay, thank you.
One time, my friend told me that he could beat me in a game, and he did. So I tried again, but he won another time. When he asked me for a rematch, I said no, and I was filled with anger. I didn't want to play the game anymore. I normally enjoyed that game. Whenever I tried to play it after that, it would just bring me down. I just kept thinking about losing. In Hiawatha and the Peacemaker, Hiawatha's family was murdered by Tadadaho's army. After the death of his family, Hiawatha was full of rage and wanted only revenge. Hiawatha couldn't enjoy the things he remembered his family fondly. He could only think about how much he hated Tadadaho. It is important to move past this sort of thing. If you don't, you don't move up or down. You just stay sad and angry all the time. You can't be successful being what you want to be if you are always thinking about whatever it is that is bothering you.
In the story, Hiawatha had something bad happen to him. He lost his family.
It made him really sad and angry. One day, he was able to share what he went through with others, and in doing so, he had able to help unite people to live in peace so they didn't have to go through something like that. Once I was playing on the playground and I was climbing up a slide. I got near the top and I fell down and hit my head. And it had a big bruise and it hurt a lot. I had to stay home and rest. When I returned to the playground, I was able to share what I went through with other kids so that they wouldn't have to go through the same thing. It was hard to do, but I felt better to turn something bad into something good. I think that Hiawatha might have felt the same way. I didn't make everything better, but I really helped. I always try to learn from my bad experiences.
There were people in the story that did not trust the Peacemaker and felt the Great Law was not powerful enough to keep people safe from Taradaho. Like the Peacemaker looking to get the nations united under the Great Law, I once needed to convince my brother to help with the household chores. Like the Mohawk war chief, he had his doubts. My brother thought that I was asking was a prank. Brother thought what I was asking was a prank. I decided to show my brother it wasn't. I helped my brother to do chores he was responsible for to show him how good working together could be. He trusted me then and started helping me out with my chores too. The Peacemaker had to climb a really tall tree. The Peacemaker had to climb a really tall tree and have it chopped from under him again to gain the Mohawk's trust.
Hiawatha was really mad at himself because he lost his wife and his daughters. He was probably upset with himself because he let it happen. When he was able to share his story with other people who had also been through something similar, he was able to see things differently and forgive himself. This is just like when I was playing doubles in tennis and I lost against my sister. I was really mad at myself. When I took a step back, I realized that a lot of things contributed to the loss. And in order to get better, I needed to stop being angry about myself. Hiawatha needed to get all the tribes united and living peacefully under the Great Law. He couldn't do it while he was angry at himself. He needed to move on to make sure nobody else would have to go through what he went through. Forgiving ourselves and those we are angry with is really important for peaceful understandings.
In the story, Hiawatha and the Peacemaker, Hiawatha shares his feelings about losing his family to connect with the Oneida chief. The chief showed empathy because his people had just been through the same thing. When I was 5, I lost my pet dog while I was on vacation with my mother. When we got back from my trip, Tatum wasn't there. I was crying. Sometime later, my friend lost a gecko. My friend was really sad, so I shared my sadness about Tatum. I think my friend felt better and he could look forward to other things like getting a new gecko. I felt happy to see one of my friends smile again. I think Hiawatha felt better too, that sharing his story with Oneida did something good.
In the story, Taradaho killed Hiawatha's family and all Hiawatha wanted was revenge. Sometimes when you're upset, all you can think about, all you care about is doing something back to someone so that you feel better. Once I was upset with my cousin. My cousin told some of my friends that I did something that I hadn't done. I was really mad. I was at home trying to calm down, but I couldn't. I was shaking. I kept thinking of what I could do to get her back. Hiawatha had to do something to get past that feeling. He had to forgive both himself for letting it happen and Taradaho himself. Once he did, he felt good again. He could once think of nice memories with his family. In the end, I didn't get my cousin back either. I just talked to her. I found out that she acted that way because I accidentally broken something of hers. I didn't even realize. Just like Hiawatha didn't realize how sick Taradaho was, that's empathy, just like we learned about in Piece by Piece.
In the story, Hiawatha and the Peacemaker have to go get the support, convince the Hiawatha Mohawk to join them. When they do so, the Mohawks still don't want to join, and some fighting breaks out. The elder clan mother of the Mohawk points out that the braves and the chiefs that they are acting just like Taradaho. She was right. Something very similar happened to me. I was playing with my friends when in Grand Ravine one of my friends had to go home. None of us wanted to leave, so he had to walk home all by himself. The next day we were all playing together again. I was the one who had to go home early to do my homework. Nobody wanted to come home with me. I realized how unfair I had been to my friend yesterday. It's easier to see when something is wrong when it affects you. That doesn't mean we shouldn't think about how things we do affect other people. I think the elder clan mother knew what she was talking about. Being good is hard sometimes. It's worth it though.
In the story, Hiawatha lost his whole family. He was really sad and angry. I think he was depressed too. When he shared his loss with the Oneida chief, who had been through something similar, he felt better and was able to think about the happy times with his family without being just sad and angry. I lost my grandma. I felt sad and depressed and really lonely. I talked to my dad about how I was feeling, and he had been through a lot too, since it was his mother. By talking through it with someone else who had been suffering, I was able to stop thinking about how sad I was and start remembering good things I could focus on right now and what I wanted to do next. I think it was good for both Hiawatha and the Oneida chief when Hiawatha shared his loss. I think the Peacemaker was right to suggest it.
In the story, Hiawatha was helping out the Peacemaker. The Peacemaker couldn't speak well, and that meant it was harder to offer a clear message and change people's minds. Hiawatha spoke for the Peacemaker, and he made all the nations join together to confront and solve the problem of Taradaho. When someone I knew was bullied, I spoke for him and tried to make peace. After I talked for him, I felt good and proud. If it didn't do much, because the bully kept bullying him and then started to bully me too, I wish someone else had done the same for me as I had done for my friend. If enough people had done what I did, maybe that wouldn't have happened. Later, the bully left the school and the person thanked me. I think the Peacemaker was grateful to Hiawatha. If it wasn't for Hiawatha and the Peacemaker together, all the nations would have still be fighting and the problem would have just gotten worse.
In this tale, Chief Taradaho of the Onondaga Nation was very sick and miserable. He became angry and would take it out on others, destroying many lives. After he was healed, he realized what he had done, and at first he didn't know what to do. Then he worked hard to be the protector of all 5 nations who were united in peace. There was a time 2 years ago when I was really stressed stressed out because of what was happening at home while I was getting ready. It made me upset. That morning at recess, we were playing a game. Someone came up to me and asked to play. I said no and excluded them and got into an argument. I realized later that I have been pretty rude. I was just upset about something else and wanted to make up for it. So I told her that I would do anything that she wanted. Tadaho did some pretty bad things, but it is alike in that the thing we did because of how we are feeling.
Hiawatha didn't think the Peacemakers canoe would float. It was made up of stone. If you put stone on water, it normally doesn't float. After he got into it and paddled around and tried it for himself, he decided it could work. He needed to try it for himself. Near where I used to live, there was a hill. I saw it was very muddy and figured it was quite slippery. I tried going down the hill with my bike. As I pedaled down and tried it, I learned it wasn't that slippery after all. I needed to try it for myself in life. Sometimes we need to try even though we think it can't work. Telling yourself you can't do your homework just keeps you from doing it. Give it a shot. Maybe you can. But sometimes you can't. You find a way through it, just like Hiawatha with the stone canoe.
After hearing Hiawatha's story about losing his daughters and his wife, the Oneida chief joined the other two nations in living by the Great Law. The Oneida had been through terrible attacks by Tadadaho, and at first they didn't think a peaceful approach could work. There was a time when a friend of mine told me about how she lost her grandpa before she was born. She was sad when she told me. That made me remember when my grandpa died. I felt like I wasn't alone in what I was going through. I think the Oneida chief felt the same way I did. When you feel like you're not alone, you can take on different things. The chief changed his mind because he knew the people he was joining understood what they had been through.
Through all their weapons of war, they replanted that big pine and called it the Tree of Peace. From that day on and evermore, call out over the water with your dark song, and soon he will return from wherever he's gone. Stand back, make some room for the Peacemaker. You're the Peacemaker.